Thank you so much, Ken, for the introduction. Thank you so much.
Wait, one more thing real quick. I just want to also share my screen quickly in order to remind everybody of all of the other cool things that we still have going on at the conference. So here we go. Did that work?
Yes.
Great. So here is the main page for the conference. If you scroll over to Thursday, and then you see what was going on, you might notice that now the buttons for the sessions that preceded us say enter recording, and we're getting those up as fast as we possibly can. Here we are at 12:30 for the climate justice panel. After this, we have a very exciting panel on incarceration and education. After that, we have a panel on environmental justice focusing on pipelines. At 5 o'clock, we have a wrap up and action plan open session in which we're going to be compiling the speakers throughout the conference answer to the question, what can the college do to further their cause? And that session is going, all speakers are invited to that. Everybody, all participants as well are invited to that. And the president of the college, as well as the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion is going to be there for us to discuss concrete ways in which the Northampton Community College can put the issues that were addressed at the conference into concrete action plans. So after that, we're going to be closing the conference. As we close every night with the screening of a locally produced documentary dealing with the various social justice issues that we're dealing with in the class. These are all locally produced documentaries, and the sessions have a screening, include a screening of the documentary followed by a Q&A with creators of the documentary. And tonight we're actually privileged and honored to be screening the debut of the film Black Poets Project, The Beautiful Needful Thing. It's a very cool project created just in 2020 in which a variety of women artists in the Lehigh Valley were invited to choose and do a reading of their favorite poem written by a Black American poet in a beautiful setting. So that will conclude our conference. I'm very excited to welcome everybody today to today's session. And it's an honor and a privilege to have our panelists. And I will give it over to Anita.
Thank you, Ken. One of the things that I want to say before we start is just some housekeeping. We're going to have the two panelists kind of give some information, but while they're talking, while they're speaking, you can always start collecting your questions, put them in the chat box, and of course I will be monitoring that. There will be time for discussion and question and answer after that. But I also wanted to say that this is not a panel on discussing whether climate change exists or not, okay? So if you're here to find out about that, sign up for my class. Now, if you're here to find out about that, this is not what we will be, debating whether it exists or not. It exists. So I will give you guys a few things to solidify that, but then our panelists will be talking about really the impact of climate change, specifically on different communities, because we know that communities of color, frontline communities, lower income communities are the ones that are bearing the brunt of the impacts of climate change. So before I go on, and all of you know that I can go on and on and on and on, I wanted to first introduce my two panelists. So first we're going to hear from Maria Santiago. She is an educator and learning disabilities consultant and a climate reality leader. She is the founding president of the Atlantic Climate Justice Alliance, and she organized in 2017 and 2018 the People's Climate March events in New Jersey. She's also a contributing author of the Chapter 24 of Education and the Climate Crisis in the anthology Climate Abandoned, edited by Jill Cody. So check that out. And the other presenter will be Jill McIntyre Witt, who has dedicated her life to to connecting others to protect our planet and defend human rights. She created a climate justice field manual, which Maria can also, I think that's at your home, but she can also show that one too. Yes. And she created the Climate Justice Field Manual, which documents social movement building strategies, effective climate communication tips, and gives a detailed account of incorporating climate justice into the ways we address the climate crisis. And of course, she also has an amazing TED Talk called Climate Justice Now, How? So check that out as well. For my students, I'll put that in our weekly folder. She teaches at Western Washington University in the Environmental Studies and Health and Human Development Department, and has so many other amazing adventures. And of course, the way I know these lovely ladies is that they are both part of Climate Reality Project. Both are very involved in climate reality projects in their areas. I know Jill chairs her chapter in Bellingham, Washington. And these are two just amazing individuals. And I'm so glad that they are here to talk to us a little bit about climate justice. But as I promised, I wanted to share with you guys just some brief data as to how we know what we know, right? I said this is not going to be about climate change, whether it exists or not. And why is that? That's because we know it exists, right? If we look at the data, we know that temperatures have increased since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Just looking at the average temperatures between 1950 and 1980, which you can see here on the graph, temperatures have continued to go up. If you look at it 10 years later, you can see that temperatures are increasing, right? You're seeing more and more warmer than average days as the time progresses. You can see in 1998 to 2008, and then finally to now, temperatures have increased. From that baseline that you can see from the 1951 to 1980 temperatures, it has increased significantly. Most of our time are now warmer than an average and extremely hot. Just this morning, a report came out that September, this last month, was the warmest on record. So we know temperatures are increasing. And of course, not only are they increasing, they are becoming extremely hot. Now, 24% of the time we're in the extremely hot category. And of course, we also know that 19 of the hottest years on records have occurred since 2001, right? And the last 5 years have been the hottest 5 years recorded. And 2020 is just a smidge behind 2016, and will probably, or maybe, who knows, it depends on what the next few months bring, might be the hottest year on record, which is especially scary because it's going to do that without being an El Nino year. So again, I'm not going to be discussing whether it's happening or not. I showed you some data, but I will let my two speakers, my two panelists, discuss a little bit issues about climate change. So our first speaker is going to be Maria Santiago, and then we will hear from Jill as well. Maria.
Let me unmute. Hi, everyone. Because I am in my working environment, I am limited on the time that I can spend. So this presentation is backwards because Professor McIntyre is supposed to, her presentation is about climate justice and all the information and all the activities that strategies that students can do as in the college. So what I'm going to talk about is about my personal experience, and like Professor McIntyre said, the connection between heart and mind and when that happened too. So I have a PowerPoint that I am going to share. Okay, I think you have to go to desktop. Okay, can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay, so let me start the slideshow. I don't know how to, new slide, format, play, view. Oh, I have to go by one. This is where my awakening began. I I have been an activist for other issues, especially education, and that started in the 1990s when I started to advocate for bilingual programs and world languages program. And then I also I worked as an organizer in my community. In 2013, I got the training with Mr. Gore, and that brought into what I do after my job, what I do to return to my community, another layer of activism, which was the environment and climate. Climate change effects are not equitably felt equitably among people, and this is what climate justice is about. Although we all experience climate change, some communities felt the burden more than others. And that's where the word justice comes around. Because, hello?
Second day of the 2020 virtual Northampton Community College Peace and Social Justice Conference. First of all, I just want to mention to everyone that we are both recording.
What happened?
Continue on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I heard someone else was speaking over. I thought there was a gap. Yeah. So, and this is what climate justice is about, is addressing and working with the communities that feel the impact of climate change more than others. And those are the communities that have not created the conditions that they're living with. Then I have this slide from for all of you for all the college students in this presentation. If you really feel you can make a difference, and you don't need a doctorate degree, you don't have to be a scholar to go into your community and make a difference. You just have to have the sense and the heart of serving, and that will be what is all needed for us to bring peace and social justice. So my journey started here in 2017, and I started as an activist. I started going to appeals and taking petition signings in my community. And here in the last picture, I am in the New Jersey Environmental Department. That was in 2014 when we asked the governor to put New Jersey back in RGGI. Again, pictures of things how as a volunteer, because I am not an environmentalist, this is not something I do for a living. My studies are not in the environment or earth and space. My studies are in education and special education. And this is, with my capacity and the capacity I have, what I can contribute with the communities that are suffering. And then the turning point was Hurricane Maria. I have been doing all that work for like 4 years, but you see a picture here of Puerto Rico, and I have relatives living there, I have family living there, and I grew up and I did my first years of college there. So it was very traumatic to be in the main line and knowing that a hurricane category 5, it was stronger than category 5, but there's no category 6. So being impacted by that system and not being able to do anything from where I was. And that's the picture. There's a picture that I don't have here, but there's a picture of Puerto Rico where it disappeared from the map because there was not a single home with electricity. So when you look at the map of the Caribbean, the day after the hurricane or a couple of hours after the hurricane passed, it was completely dark. And this is an example of climate justice, okay, and environmental, what is called also environmental racism. These are Puerto Ricans after the hurricane, trying to get the water for drinking water, and also water to wash their dishes and their clothes. And 96% of the electricity and power in Puerto Rico depends on fossil fuels. It's still like that. And even though there's a transition, supposed transition into another electricity system, what they're proposing is to maintain the systems that are in place and potentially moving into fracking with methane, which is not a solution either. And as you can see, the people on the island have no word, have no decision onto what type of energy comes, how can I say this? They have no voice into, and also they're uninformed about what solutions and energy solutions are for them. Yes, the scholars, the professors, the engineers, but common people, they will just, many of them are unaware. These are parts of Puerto Rico after the hurricane. There was rain for 24 hours nonstop and winds. And if you look at the picture, this is all the power grid with fossil fuels, and all those, everything is on the floor, and that's what they're trying to build back in 2020. This is an example of other presentations and things that I have done in New Jersey. Wait, where I am. And presentations as a climate reality leader, and that was in 2013. But here, if you notice, this is a different approach from presenting as a climate leader. I'm start getting involved with other environmental organizations in the state. So for me, climate reality was like the entry level. So I knew about issues in depth that I wasn't aware, and I got involved with Food and Water Watch and New Jersey March for Science and the pipelines, which is the last picture. And I'm just showing you my journey, and probably you are way ahead of what I am right now, but I'm still learning. I was invited as a panelist, as a film screening, but what I put this slide is because in this film, they're showing the two sides of the coin. This is about clean energy, and also the industry of coal, and the transition from one industry to the other one, and how this is impacting workers that do not have yet the skills to work in the green energy, and how this is impacting their lives, their ability to make income. And it's a way for us to understand their resistance and how to help them move from that type of framework or paradigm to the one with clean energy, but with the skills so they can have sustainable lives. The resistance comes from not being able to support their families. Then here, this is something I did. I got involved also in the environmental commission of my town. So what we did was we did a couple of, there was there's a river. So every year we do the cleanup with the town and the Boy Scouts. And this is examples of things you can do as a resident in your communities also. This is about Puerto Rico. Oh, this is about New Jersey. This is part of Empower New Jersey, which is a coalition of many environmental organizations, but also social justice and peace organizations, asking the government for a moratorium on fossil fuels. That was in 2014, but in 2019, at the beginning of 2019, yes, our governor signed an audit, no, he signed a document and a resolution, and New Jersey is back into RGGI. This is related to, this picture is related to the pipelines, the Pilgrim pipelines in New Jersey. And this is something I'm gonna talk in another panel. And this is one of the causes that are still happening we're working on New Jersey. And this is the heart and mind connection. And this is, for me, this is like the turning point. For 3 years, I tried to build an organization, and it was like a group of people that helped me sometimes to collect for example, for Puerto Rico, or we signed petitions together, or we made phone calls. But it wasn't until April that a group of friends got back to me, but they were not from Jersey, and they asked me if we could create this, and because I already had one created, but what I did was I dissolved the one that it was, and then we created a new one with new trustees, and the evolution of the New Jersey Coalition for Climate Justice, it became the Atlantic Climate Justice Alliance. And I am gonna tell you that what I wanted to achieve 3 years ago is nothing in comparison that we are achieving now, because we are 11 individuals, and every person comes to the table with a different mindset, with different things they want to do, and we are achieving, I'm achieving things, our group is achieving things I never thought were possible. For example, we may have a partnership with Eco Schools now in Puerto Rico. We obtain our 501c3. We have a partner with the Newark Community Food Bank. So when there's emergencies in Puerto Rico, we want to, we're working on a plan of emergency for food distribution. We have a chef that is gonna help us create videos, and probably we want to visit the island and show the people of Puerto Rico how to use all the food they receive in cans and in boxes, and not throw it away. They can profit from that box of gift food in 95%, even if everything is canned food, because there's proteins and there's nutrients in that food. And sometimes they get the box and they don't know what to do with the can, or, oh, I don't like this, but that's the next step. That's what we want to do. And we're bringing, there's more people that are seeing us, what we're trying to do, and they're joining us, and we are accepting them to come to us, to be part of our organization. We make a coalition, an alliance with the Environmental Justice Youth of Puerto Rico. And we were able to send questions to the gubernatorial candidates in Puerto Rico from our end that were used in that debate that was broadcasted last week. So my dream, it was only me, but when I brought more people, it's the dream of all of us, and it's expanding at a fast pace. And I think, and that's the end. And this is what Camden and Northampton Community College community do to support the issues addressed today. And these are examples for students and faculty and admin team at the college. So I'm gonna stop sharing if anybody has questions. I hope I didn't take too long.
Thank you. And normally what we would do is we would have both of our presenters speak, and before we start with the questions, but because I know Maria is working and she has to go back to work, if anybody has a question to Maria about some of her experiences, you can drop that in the chat, or of course turn off your mic and ask a question. I know we still have her for a couple of more minutes. So
my PowerPoint is available to anybody. Professor Forrester use it, share with your students, and if they have questions, and if they want to join the Alliance, if anybody's interested, they're more than welcome, and that's all. And thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And I did want to say, because you are a climate reality leader, and so we do have two students here in the audience who are also climate reality leaders. They were just trained during the global training. So Rachel and Stacy are here among us. So I wanted to welcome Adele as well. Now, Peter is asking, is fracking still on the table for Puerto Rico? That would be sad because fracking creates deadly health and environmental impacts, and switching to natural gas does not reduce greenhouse gas emissions. When you add the upstream emissions from the fracking process, well leakage and transmissions, total greenhouse gases are as bad as full. So do you know, is fracking still on the table for Puerto Rico? Is fracking still on the table for Puerto Rico? Or
Yes. Yeah, it's still, I was checking because it's part of the transition plan of LUMA with PREPA. They're transitioning from fossil fuels to something called clean energy with gas. And we know if it's gas, they have to do fracking. And in the documents, they mention methane.
Yeah.
It is.
Methane is there, then we know where it's heading. And we'll be talking more about that because Maria will be back in the afternoon as well at 3:30 for the next panel. Go ahead.
So thank you. So I'm gonna I will have to go for now.
Okay, thank you so much, and I'll see you at 3:30. Okay.
Bye, Professor. Bye, everybody. Bye, Jill. Bye. Ken.
Bye.
Bye.
And I guess now with that, Jill, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I will try to be.
How can I get out? I'll leave me.
Okay, so let me share my screen. That's not what I want to share, but that's being shared. Okay. So I wanted to reiterate that my presentation is geared towards obviously through this 3-day conference, you've had examples of climate justice or injustice, social injustice, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to focus so much on that, but more so towards this is like the end of the conference, and you may be wondering, okay, so like now what do I do? Like, how do I get into action on climate justice? So that's what I'm going to be focusing on. I am also sharing my notes on the side for people that might learn better through visual instead of auditory. So being that this is recorded. So, but I'm going to be using those slides as well to keep me on track for time. So yes, thank you for attending this panel. I'm hoping to help you feel empowered to take activism. And I do want to acknowledge the land we are standing on. You have your land acknowledgement. I happen to be on the land of the Coast Salish people here in Bellingham, Washington, which is basically the line that separates Canada and the US. We have a border there, but we are on the Salish Sea. I live 2 blocks from the ocean. I want everybody to think about what we can do towards healing and reconciliation, and to carry forth the teachings of Indigenous peoples of our areas and around the world to care for this place for the next 7 generations. So this is our only home, and as it's trite sounding, it's there's no planet B, so we are on this planet with over 7 billion people. And so I'm thankful to share this time with you across the other side of the US. We all come to this place in terms of our activism because of our life's experiences. So I want to share a bit of my life-changing moments that's brought me to giving this presentation. So my first life-changing moment was I was born, which is the case for everybody, and in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. This picture is not from the recent fires. This is a sunset picture. Anyway, then when I was 8, I moved here to Southern California. And at the time, the skies were very polluted. They were gray, not blue. And I knew that there was something I needed to do to change this picture. When I was 8. Fast forward to college, I spent 2 weeks here on Heron Island. I was in Australia, and I did a year exchange program, and I learned a great deal from the Aboriginal people and their struggles in Australia, and their sense of place and belonging, and the importance of the natural world. And so I collected algae from the Great Barrier Reef I was an environmental biology student. And so for my senior project, I collected species from the Great Barrier Reef to donate to my university's herbarium to help people learn about the reef should something ever happen to it. And in my lifetime, little did I know that it would go from this to this. It just blows my mind. I can't think about it too much or I start to cry. So I've been an activist all my adult life. But in 2006, I saw this film, An Inconvenient Truth. And there's a time at the end where Al Gore asks questions like, what if future generations could talk to us today? They would be asking us, what were you thinking and why didn't you do anything when you had the chance? And I just broke down in the theater because this is who was talking to me, my 2 daughters at the time. I did not want them asking me those questions. So after that, I started really diving into climate justice activism, and I really wanted people to connect with their use of fossil fuels, and the only way I thought I could do that was like if I could connect them to their daily plastic pollution, their single-use plastic consumption. There were entire cities across the world that were banning single-use plastic bags. There were entire countries banning single-use plastic bags. So in 2011, I was like, I'm gonna just do this for the city of Bellingham and get people to connect with standing up to big oil. And at the same time, we were faced with stopping North America's largest coal export terminal in 2011, right here at Cherry Point, which is less than 10 miles from my house. And this is Indigenous land. And so I had been organizing for 350.org, 350 Bellingham. So we joined the fight along with many other organizations and new organizations, et cetera, to fight this terminal. And we joined up alongside the Lummi Nation, our local Indigenous community, to fight this effort. And they burned a symbolic check that was on the front of the New York Times saying that they couldn't be bought. And they wanted to protect their fishing rights, their treaty rights. And so fortunately, they were listened to, and we won. So we stopped the North America's largest coal export terminal, which was actually one of 7 along the West Coast, and all of them have been stopped. So it's been quite a journey. It was a 5-year battle in our community. I could tell you lots about that, but I won't in this talk. So what I will talk about are kind of some ABCs. I just threw some ideas together in the sense of ABCs for climate justice movement building. So we're going to start with A for action. And here are some points to remember in ramping up action to meet the scale of the crisis. As we know, it's a huge climate crisis. So first we have to acknowledge what we're up against and that there's a crisis. And for example, if a house is burning, we don't walk by and leave the children inside to die, right? So we have to think about, what we're up against. And so this is like the US perspectives on climate change. And Yale Climate Communications team has been studying this for about 10 years. And when I started with Climate Reality Project, I wanted to see, you know, how America was broken out. So in March 2012, this is where we were at, alarmed being the people that are active on taking action. Dismissive would be the people that are the climate deniers. All right. So at the time, this was the largest, even though it was 10%, they were the most vocal. And still to this day, they have a vocal side to them in the sense of trying to create a debate, right? And have equal airtime and all of that. It's kind of ridiculous. It's all funded by fossil fuel interests. So I will mention Merchants of Doubt. It's a movie as well as a book by Naomi Oreskes. So you can check that out if you want to learn more. So November 2019, that's the latest that I have. You can see the changes over the last 7 years here of time, 7.5 years. So the alarmed category has grown huge, and you can see that mainly folks from the cautious category moved. Basically, people are moving further to the alarmed category, as you can see. So more doubtfuls have moved out, more cautious, concerned has stayed the same. But as you know, people were moving from concern to alarm. So that's a bit of good news. But it also shows what we're up against. And also, you know, with the increase of storms, stronger storms, people are becoming more aware. And as youth that have learned a lot about climate change, there's a lot of people that still don't understand it. So helping to raise awareness is one of the actions you can take by pointing out what is going on. And also helping people learn where do fossil